And I'm back, round two, except this time I'm not going to try to be all reserved and scared about what other people think because quite frankly, even though I tried to tone it down last year, I still got a bunch of backlash, so fuck it. I contemplated a lot about making this video because I wasn't sure if it was even worth the effort to make a video about this course, but then I realized I could just look back at it in 5 years and laugh about it, so why not? Also, I wrote this script and reread it and realized how aggressive and real I am. I'm not always like this, but let's just say doing this course for the whole year has kind of gotten me a bit salty about it. Anyways, let's get started. So this year was split into 6 modules, which compared to last year was pretty generous considering that only one of them was a complete waste of time. The 6 modules listed from lowest to highest credits are Design Research, Electronics Programming and Interfacing for Design, Further Mechanics for Design, Design Communication, Design and Manufacturing Technologies, and Design Practice. And as a bonus, I'm going to put all my grades up for each module. Design Research. Conduct research to improve the design of laundry service for students. I know, right? What the fuck? Honestly, no one really knew what we were meant to do, but it was along the lines of doing first-hand research of how students do the laundry, come up with conclusions of issue areas, and design a better solution based off those conclusions. Essentially what that means is find some friends to take photos of them washing their clothes, bullshit some data and summaries from them, use Photoshop to edit the existing apps and put new icons and words in so that we can say that we improved it. This was the most useless thing I've done all year because not only have I not learned anything from this coursework, I also wasted however many hours it took for me to take photos of my friends doing laundry, then writing it all up on Blogspot, then having group meetings where I have to cycle all the way down to design school, only to sit there for an hour to agree on a few points and cycle all the way back home. I mean, at least now I have a pretty photo of a sticky note research wall, or whatever it's called. Module usefulness rating, 0.2. I give them the 0.2 for the cool photo I got. Enjoyment rating, 1. I mean, at least it was easy. Electronics, Programming and Interfacing for Design. This one is hard as fuck. So the whole years of theory pretty much revolves around 2 main concepts: operational amplifiers and C programming. The op-amp is essentially this small chip thing that amplifies the voltage in to another voltage out, and with this you can do a bunch of cool things like calculations, compare 2 voltages, make Schmidt triggers, and a bunch of shit that I'm definitely not qualified to explain. Throughout semester 1, we are lectured on how these op-amps work and learn how to do calculations associated with them. C programming is a high-level computer programming language. You've probably seen these in like hacking scenes in movies and stuff like that. Obviously, there was no way that we were going to learn to be a professional programmer in one small module that only lasts half the year, but essentially we get taught to partially write a code that can be used to make an embedded system. This module had 2 courseworks done for each semester and is done in the same group of pairs. I think they were both like 5 or 6 weeks long. The first coursework was to design a system to display 2 separate names on a 7-segment LED display, which are those old-fashioned number display things you get on lifts and calculators and shit. We each get a PIC 18F45K microcontroller, 2 switches, and a single 7-segment LED display. And the task was to modify a code which was given to us in order to make a 7-segment LED run 2 different names depending on which switch was pressed. So if switch 1 was pressed, my name would come out spelling BEN, and if switch 2 was pressed, Louis' name would come out spelling LE3IE. Alongside that, we also had to do a logbook of the theory we learned throughout the semester on op-amps and C programming, as well as a formal report for the 2 switches 7-segment LED display embedded system. Despite the fact that we already did 2 logbooks and reports last year, this will and always will be a pain in the ass to do. The second coursework was a little bit more fun. After getting used to coding a bit, we were allowed to create our own embedded system with some sort of sensor and output of our choice. To be safe, don't do anything stupid like a pressure sensor in a shoe that will activate hydraulic springs or some shit. We did a moisture sensor for soils that'll pump water into the soil every time the moisture level drops beyond a certain value. Despite how simple that sounds, the coding was difficult as fuck, because like all things computer science related, shit never fucking goes as planned, and if one tiny little logic in the code is wrong, then the whole thing fails. Although we got given the code this time, which we had to change the middle bit to suit our design, being taught almost nothing about coding and throwing us a task to design an embedded system is like teaching you how to say I love you, 1, 2, 3, and hi in Chinese, and making you write a paragraph of the economic benefits of Brexit in Chinese. Lucky for us though, this time, we didn't have to do a logbook for semester 2's coursework, meaning that we could fully focus on designing, coding, and building the shit for hand-in. But we still had to write a report. The teaching for this module was weird. Definitely was not straight to the point, and half the time left us walking out the lecture confused as of what we were meant to learn from it. And although some of the topics were very generic, like the op-amps, so watching YouTube tutorials kind of saved my ass, things like coding isn't exactly easy to just search up how to do online. So that for me was more like hours and hours of trial and error till I got lucky and the code just magically worked. This module also has an exam at the end of the year, which means that you actually have to learn all the theory that has been taught throughout the year. The exam itself was fine throughout the op-amp theory questions until you got to coding. I mean, maybe it's just me, but like I said, if I get taught like 3 phrases in the language, how the fuck am I meant to write an essay about it? I mean, I can't even write a program in a fucking coding software. How am I meant to do it on a piece of paper? Module usefulness rating, 7. Enjoyment rating, 4. Definitely learned something from it. Who knows, maybe in final year I might find a code online to copy, change a few values inside, and magically get it to work, and then use it in my own design. Further mechanics for design. Oh baby, was this one fun and annoying as shit. We had one coursework done in groups of 4, which is split into 2 parts in semester 1 and semester 2. This was to build a squash ball launcher, and that was the only fun thing about it, hearing the brief. Semester 1's coursework was to write a report of a design proposal of our squash ball launcher. This included a few different initial designs and more filler crap like design specs and shit, and a bunch of manual calculated figures of forces acting on each component and how far the squash ball would launch. What really doesn't make sense to me here is why we have to do all the calculations manually, because not only is it super tedious and a massive waste of time which can result in a bunch of errors, it also wouldn't make sense in industry because we would just use a CAD software and have it all simulated in seconds. Semester 2 is time to build the design that we proposed in semester's 1 report. At first, it all turned out fine. Building it isn't really difficult because Richard, the fabrication workshop staff and tutor, basically did all the welding for us, which basically meant that most of the building process was just buying long ass beams of steel, marking and cutting it down to length, then handing it over to Richard to weld for us. Testing, fuck me. Best tip I can say is really think about your design before you make it. Don't do the good old, yeah, fuck it should work, because it might not, and changing the design after you build it is fucking hard. For my group's case, the 3D printed ball holder made out of ABS kept breaking because of smacking into the metal frame with each launch. Reason this happened was because I did the good old, yeah, fuck it shouldn't break when I was designing it, without really thinking about how much impact that thing was actually taking every time it hit the metal frame. Also, keep in mind it's embarrassing as fuck on launch day if you have a launcher that doesn't work or shoots the ball anywhere under 20 meters or so. Alongside the artifact itself, we also had to add onto the existing report, which was super boring and just feels pointless. This module also had an exam at the end of the year, which was relatively straightforward. It's basically a bunch of plug into the formula questions. Although, funnily enough, they failed to double check the exam paper and forgot to include a value needed to answer one of the questions, which meant that a bunch of people panicked in the exam trying to figure out a question that wasn't possible to do. Luckily enough for me, I did enough past papers to guess the missing value, but for everyone else, it must have been a nightmare. So, good job design school. Top class teaching quality right there. Module usefulness rating, 5. Enjoyment, 4. I don't know. I mean, at least I can say I came out of the module learning something from it, although I don't really know when I'll ever apply it. But launching a bunch of squash balls at the rugby pitch was kind of fun. Design communication. Now we're getting to the juicy stuff. I know, right? Finally, design. So design communications is split into 4 courseworks. Design week, design portfolio, video portfolio, and data visualization. Design week is a 7-day design challenge. Our challenge was to design a novelty item for use in student accommodations. The product also has to make use of living hinges so that it can compactly fold up when being stored. There was also a bunch of other guidelines which we had to follow, but I CBA to explain it all. You also get marked on how interesting or unique the design is or something, but I kind of went the wrong direction trying to design something more functional, where I'm assuming I lost a lot of my marks. The submission requirement consisted of a 3-page PDF. First page, the cover page, or hero shot. This is the 1 CAD render that shows off your product as much as possible. Second page, a development sheet that must be done through Sketch, even if your development wasn't done through Sketches. Third page, 3 photos that best illustrates its functionality from its closed form to its open form. Design portfolio. Essentially, this coursework exists to make sure that everyone produces a top-notch portfolio, which then can be used to apply for placements. Definitely good on design school for making this a thing for us. And just a personal note, all the lecturers who ran and marked this coursework were all super nice and helpful, so this is one I personally really liked, even though I didn't go to any of the help sessions or lectures. Video portfolio. Make a video under 2 minutes that shows you off as a designer. I talked about this in my actual video portfolio upload, so you can go check it out there. Design visualization. I have no fucking idea why all of a sudden we were tasked to do an infographic out of the blue, having been taught nothing about this the year before. They also wanted us to learn how to handle massive chunks of raw data in Excel and summarize them. I don't know. This isn't a research degree or graphic design, so yeah, fuck it. I limited myself to spend 4 hours on the whole thing, including the report, and still managed to score relatively high on it, so yeah. Stupid coursework in my opinion. Module usefulness rating, 8. I'd give it a 9 if it wasn't for data visualization. Enjoyment rating, 7. This module is definitely a lot of fun and really pushes our creativity. And also I'm biased as fuck because I love making videos, although I don't really know how this is related to being a designer. DMT. 3 courseworks, or technically 2.5 because coursework 1 and 2 are linked in a way. Coursework 1. Design a giveaway product which can be injection molded. Then design the injection molding tool for it. The product has to be relatively small to fit into the dimensions that we were given, which I forgot, but it's basically a small handheld sized product. Submissions include a bunch of development pages that you sketched or did on CAD, and an engineering drawing of all the final mold tool parts that you have in your injection mold tool. This coursework was relatively difficult because we had to design a product which was complex enough that the mold tool needed to injection mold it was complex so we achieve higher marks, but simple enough that it could be manufacturable inside design school. Making it possible to manufacture in design school was also really important because it means that your design gets chosen in the group work manufacturing stage next semester, where you can then put the project into your portfolio as your design all the way to manufacture. Whereas if your design wasn't chosen, you would have to showcase someone else's design in your portfolio if you want to include this coursework in your portfolio. Which leads me to coursework 2. You manufactured the injection mold tool of a chosen group member's design, which in this case was mine. This was done in massive groups of 7. This coursework basically consisted of going to workshops every day until the group has finished making the mold tool. We're also able to use the CNC machines for the first time, which was really cool. And as a tip, if you're smart enough, design your inserts so they can all be CNC milled because that means you don't have to do it manually and it just saves a bunch of time and effort. Submissions for this coursework include the mold tool itself, an injection molded product from the tool, and a poster which showcases a bunch of photos and calculation shit. This coursework was probably the most stressful one alongside DP2 because of the intense workload required to design a product and mold tool in 5 weeks for coursework 1, then going straight into a non-stop 8-hour workshop days for another 6 weeks or something like that to make the mold tool in coursework 2. Coursework 3. I don't know. Biggest waste of time. Spent the whole year, but it was really just meant to be done on the last week or 2 before submission. This was a group work project to redesign some product they gave us to make it more eco-friendly or cost-efficient or something. I didn't learn anything from this coursework, and it was basically just a fucking parasite in the back of my head having to worry about it for the whole year. Worst part is, it's worth the same amount as coursework 1 and 2, but it's literally just a bunch of bullshit. Did they really believe that this coursework was that important? Module usefulness rating, 9. I'd give it a 10 if it wasn't for coursework 3. Enjoyment rating, 4. This module was definitely one of the most useful ones for the whole year because we finally got out of the whole theoretical design philosophy, which design schools seem to love a lot. What I mean by that is that design school loves to make us design things that look fancy and claim to be useful, but technically it would never work if it were to be actually made. So it's great that we finally have a design module that's a bit more down to earth. And last but not least, DP2. I don't even know how to start, so I'm just going to dive right into it. We have to design and make a visual model of an Internet of Things product, which basically means anything we want which has some sort of theoretical, technical functionality to it. See what I mean by theoretical design? Physical modeling was probably the biggest part of this module because they had a heavy emphasis on making us stay in the workshop to physically work on the form and feeling the material for ergonomics, even if the product wasn't designed to be handheld. We basically were forced to use this material called ProLab, which is fucking expensive as shit, so definitely make something small or you're going to be spending a lot of money on your model. In the end, the model is worth like 25% of the final grade of the module, but the marking was really weird because my shitty model got the same score as some other really good ones, and some other really shitty ones got much higher marks than mine. Honestly, I feel like the teaching guidance of this module is just fucking horrendous. I don't even know how to express my frustrations with this, especially because most of it relates to the overall issues with the whole teaching philosophy of design school, which I'm going to get into later, so I'll just discuss it then. Also, this module is worth a lot of credits, so whatever you get in this module is pretty much going to determine your grade for the whole year, which means that just because you did well in everything else, don't expect your easy first or 2-1 until you get your DP mark back because that could completely drop your average down. At this very moment in time, I think everyone else got the grade back for like 2 weeks, but I still don't have mine because I submitted mine through the extended time submission portal and they somehow lost my submission and they're still looking for it. But I'm not even surprised because it's design school. Module usefulness rating, 7. Enjoyment, 3. In the end, it's a design module, so it has to be important to us as designers in some way, but fuck me, it wasn't executed so badly. The enjoyment rating for me is basically being shat on or told off by the staff or lecturers for every decision or choice I made during this whole coursework. Fuck me, that took forever, but 4,000 words though. That's not a bad video essay right there. Now, my personal opinion of design school. Also, the importance of my points increase as I go along, so if I sound like a little bitch at the start, it's because I am. 1. Money. So I heard recently that design school is combining with art school, And rumors say that the reason is because we are so stupidly high in profit right now that we're gonna share extra resources with art school. Whether that's true or not, I don't give a fuck. What I do know is that we pay way beyond the teaching standards and resources that we receive from design school, so there must be extra money lying somewhere. But despite that fact, we still have to buy our own materials, equipment, and everything else. Now, they do refund us £50 for material. However, let's just do a bit of a calculation here. DP2 on average, students are spending anywhere between £50 to £80 on their models, which include blue foam, ProLab, spray paint, stock components, etc. Mechanics squash ball launcher, that's another £10 to £30, depending on what components you bought for your launcher. Injection molding project was another £10 per member for extra metal blocks we had to use to make the inserts. Electronics, I'll drop it down to £10 just to be safe, because most sensors and motors we bought were relatively cheap. And don't forget all our safety gear and other equipment like digital calipers and the needle files that we had to buy on our own from last year, which is about another 30 or more pounds. That brings us to a generous total of £130, or even up to £180. And even minus the £50 they give us, that's still around £80 to £100 out of our own pockets. Surely my 16k tuition fee has covered this cost somewhere, because I didn't buy any of this because I chose to. I bought it because my course requires me to. 2, equipment. This one's just a personal thing, but like I said, I paid 16k to come to design school, and I can't even use the 3D printers or laser cutters for my own projects. Like, even my A-level teacher let me use the school 3D printer and laser cutter without supervision. Selfish much, design school? 3, different feedbacks and expectations from different lecturers on the same module. Okay, this one isn't even really that hard. If a group of staff teach the same module, surely they had the time to sit together and agree on the specification or requirements from the module. But no, from my experience and many others in design school, design staff of the same module have conflicting expectations of our hand-ins. So how the fuck are we meant to produce what we think they want from us to get a high mark if they're all telling us different things? 4, training or teaching. So this year especially, I feel like design school is trying to train us to be designers, not teach us. What I mean by this is instead of letting us explore with designing products and experiment with different methods, I feel like we're restricted to what they feel is the right way to do things. And I know they're probably way more experienced than I am and know more than me, but making us stick to old methods of doing things and not letting us try new stuff just completely goes against the whole idea of innovation and change, which I kind of thought was the whole idea of design. But you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they know every new way to do something in design and I know nothing. 5, group work. I'm too lazy to count how many group work projects we've had at this point in the year, but really? Think about this logically. Almost 50% of our grades for the year are based off group coursework projects. So that means that a good chunk of our final grade for the year is based off other people. I mean, at least this year we got to pick a majority of our groups, but still, I get it. Almost all designers in the industry work in a team. But that doesn't mean that our university degree and qualification should be based off others in our group. I mean, honestly, at this point, I feel I should get a university group degree because the grade is only 50% based off my own potential and 50% based on my group potential. And this year I got really fucking lucky because I got to work most of my group projects with my close friend Louis, as well as the smartest dude in the whole design school from my year, Pan. But I know people who fucking hated their partners or group members because they didn't do anything in the group, so their grade gets dragged down while their partner or group's grade gets dragged up because of their work. There must be a better solution to teach us teamwork without making our whole degree depend on it. Come on, design staff, come up with a design solution. Also on a side note, I feel like group work is low-key their excuse to mark less pieces of work, so... 6, overload. At this point, it's just annoying to say because not only do design school actually get taken the piss out of from the rest of uni, even our lecturers and teaching staff themselves don't realize how much they're overworking us. Imagine the workload and pressure you have on the last 2 days of exam cramping. By this, I mean you wake up really early, get straight to your desk and work till lunch, rush your meal, then back to work till dinner, rush dinner, then work till like 3 to 4 a.m., then go to bed and repeat. Now we as designers experience that kind of workload and pressure for 10-week periods at a time, with only 1 or 2 week breaks between each period. Oh, I forgot, this only applies to the people who actually put a ton of work into their group projects and not the fucking slackers who just leave it to their group to do everything, because those people are basically doing the workload of a business student. Sorry, business students. Anyways, my point is, I doubt any other course in Loughborough can say they work that much every day throughout the year as us. But our teaching staff and course leaders still insist that that's appropriate workload for us as design students. Honestly, I could go on forever complaining about design school. Like, some staff are super unfriendly and unapproachable, so it's really hard to ask them questions or learn from. But I believe I covered most of the main points already. So this just leaves me with one last point. Why am I still doing this course then? I've actually wanted to drop out for a year now, but unfortunately, I've already paid and worked so hard for the last few years that I might as well just push for the final year to get my degree that I paid for. And also because of how employment works these days, it's just that much harder to get a job without a degree to somehow prove that I'm a qualified designer. But lucky for me, I've nailed a placement for next year anyways, so I get to take a whole year off design school. I have no idea about the legalities of disclosing any information about my placement, so I'm not going to say anything about it just yet. So that's it, my second year review of Loughborough product design. See you guys next time.